All right. Hello. Welcome to the Daily Faded. My name is Hetz. This is where we get faded daily and talk about the news and the politics of the day. So sit back, have a toke, take a sip, do whatever it is that makes you comfortable. Just, it's late, so don't drink a Red Bull, unless that's your thing. All right. So let's dive in. Let's start with our COVID numbers that we talk about every day, every night. So we're at 41,000, 41,000. Try that again. 41 million cases globally and 1.1 million deaths from COVID-19 reported. Rest assured, the number is far higher than that, especially the global number. In the United States, we are over 8.5 million cases. We will certainly be to 9 million by the election. And we are at 226,000 deaths. Again, this tracker always tracks a little bit higher than others. And we had 831 deaths today. Also, we had 59,887 new cases today. That is a high number consistent with what we've been seeing over the last week. And just to use it as a reference here, India today saw 54,000 new cases, and Brazil saw 23,000 new cases. And these are the second and third worst countries in the world by case count and by death count. Also going to talk a little bit about California tonight. California, we're over 884,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. With 3,458 new cases today. Now, I remember a time nine or 10,000 new cases a day, and that 3,458 number would have looked very good back then. But we were in the, 1,500 range for much of the last few days. So, and then we've had 22 deaths today in California from COVID-19, bringing us to 17,023 deaths in California. So really, it's just a question of what happens in the next couple of days. We could easily find ourselves at 100,000 new cases a day, or we could top out again where we are. Although it's hard for me to imagine any reason why we would top out where we are, because we are not doing anything to keep the numbers down, to keep the new case count down. So as cases are skyrocketing in the Midwest and going up in 31 states, 31 states went in the wrong direction with their 7-day average of new cases as of today. Without a national plan, without anyone actually doing anything, it's kind of hard to have hope that the numbers are going to come down. All right, I wanted to talk about this. I thought this was interesting. This is from the LAist. California wants statewide panel to review any COVID vaccine. Coronavirus vaccines approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in coming months will not be distributed in California until a statewide panel of health experts can ensure they meet safety requirements, Governor Gavin Newsom announced Monday. While there is no vaccine available yet, California and other states have been gearing up for its eventual distribution. On Friday, California sent a draft of its vaccination plan to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In the draft, state officials said a scientific safety review work group made up of immunization and public health experts from agencies and universities across the state will help, quote, ensure public confidence in vaccine safety, efficacy, and implementation efforts, end quote. Other states have also created committees to review any coming vaccine in response to concerns that the Trump administration might rush the regulatory approval process. Of course, we don't take anyone's word for it, Newsom said in a nod to the politicization of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, this is the kind of thing where your hand gets forced. If you're in Gavin Newsom's position, if you're in Cuomo's position, if you're in Gretchen Whitmer's position, if you're in anyone's position and you're intelligent and you're observing what's going on, obviously the CDC and the FDA have both been completely politicized. And if the Trump administration could rush a vaccine, if they could break all the rules and rush a vaccine, they certainly would. There is not going to be a vaccine by Election Day, regardless of any of Trump's promises. But because of all the monkeying around, because of all the stupidity on display, because of how big an idiot Donald Trump is, and because he plays fast and loose with the truth, we need independent panels to review the vaccines because we cannot trust them. We just can't trust them. So, look, I believe in the power of government. I really do. I believe government can be a good force in people's lives and should be a good force in people's lives. But Steve Bannon called it the deconstruction of the administrative state. That was one of the primary goals of this administration. And they achieved it. They achieved it to the point where the institutions that we used to recognize and respect have fallen into reputational disrepair. And one of the things the next president will have to do is rebuild those institutions. And it's going to be harder to rebuild them than it was to tear them apart. So, meanwhile, what is our deranged president up to? Ooh, scandalous video. Leslie Stahl of 60 Minutes not wearing a mask in the White House after her interview with me. Much more to come. There were a couple more Trump tweets about the 60 Minutes interview, and he ragged on 60 Minutes at his rally tonight. It's just silly. So Trump stormed out of his 60 Minutes interview after 45 minutes, and then he was supposed to meet them for a walk and talk later in the afternoon with Mike Pence, which is exactly what they did 4 years ago, I guess, or something. I don't know. Last 60 Minutes interview, I guess. And Trump didn't show. So Trump threatened to play the tape of the interview before 60 Minutes airs it. He's just a buffoon. He's just a buffoon, but the other thing was where he was so I just want to play this ad for you. This is actually on Mike Figueredo, the Humanist Report. Joe Biden tweeted, "For once, Donald Trump is correct. I will listen to scientists." Because that was Trump's big new blast against Biden yesterday. Oh my God, he'll listen to the scientists. But here, check this out. So Joe Biden just cuts a commercial He'll listen to Dr. Fauci. He'll listen to the scientists. That seriously falls into the category of keep using that attack, Donald Trump, because we don't mind you telling people that we're going to listen to the scientists. Don't worry, I have other things to say about Joe Biden tonight. But I did think it was interesting. Even one of the lefty stalwarts who until recently was debating whether or not she could vote for Biden, bourgeois alien. What Trump emboldened in this country is reprehensible. I know these lunatics have always been here, men who threaten to rape women, send anonymous death threats, etc. But having Trump as their leader gave them a platform they never should have had. Trump has to go, full stop. Literally, Beth, who's she's an influential lefty Twitter person. She's followed by a lot of big lefties, and I'm always interested in what she has to say. But I think this tweet was probably from before the Politico article, because I don't know if she would be saying this after the Politico article, which we're going to get to in just a minute. First, in keeping with having some good thoughts vis-a-vis the election, Vice News, young people think politics is broken, but they're voting in huge numbers anyway. A Vice News Ipsos poll of young voters shows they're overwhelmingly voting for Joe Biden, but also believe American democracy itself is broken. A vast majority of young voters plan to turn out for the upcoming 2020 election, despite a general sense of disillusion with the country's system of democracy, according to a poll of younger voters conducted by Vice News and Ipsos. The poll of eligible voters aged 18 to 30 shows that while 84% of them do plan to cast a vote come November 3rd, most of them in support for Democratic nominee Vice President Joe Biden, nearly three-quarters believe that American democracy itself is broken and that national elections do not necessarily reflect the will of the people. I wonder where they got that idea. A majority of young voters polled listed several reasons for their mounting disappointment in American politics, including the archaic nature of participating in an election in the first place. A total of 73% say the government makes voting and voter registration more difficult than it needs to be by not modernizing or updating their systems. At least 71% of those who responded said that Election Day should be a federal holiday, like many other countries around the world. The survey also shows some distrust among young voters in the process of voting by mail. While 38% of people said they'll be voting by mail, the same amount of voters who said they'll be casting their ballots in person, 64% of young voters said they are concerned that their vote will not count in the final tally, and 59% said they are concerned about voter suppression. It also appears that the role of the Electoral College in presidential elections is affecting young people's faith in the system. The survey shows that 58% of respondents believe that the Electoral College will once again choose a different winner from the American public, a repeat of President Trump's 2016 victory over Hillary Clinton, who earned 2.9 million more votes than her Republican opponent. So, look, the good news is that maybe younger people are actually going to vote in dramatic numbers in 2020. That would be a great thing, given that they are overwhelmingly supporting Biden. So there's good news in that. But, I think it's really important that young people are aware of the built-in structural flaws in our democracy. I mean, the Electoral College has simply got to go. It's an undemocratic tool for minority rule, which is what we've had 12 years of in this century. Minority rule without a public mandate. George W. Bush and Donald Trump. You could argue it's only 8 years because George W. Bush did win the popular vote in 2004. But still, yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen because we need some really structural reforms. We need to guarantee economic rights as a constitutional guarantee. We need a voting rights amendment to solidify certain voting rights. We need a digital rights amendment. Um, we need to get rid of slavery once and for all. Um, so there's a lot of really fundamental key work that needs to be done that won't be accomplished just by advancing some piece of legislation. And are we going to get any of that boldness from Joe Biden? This is from Politico today. Biden eyes GOP candidates for cabinet slots. Joe Biden's transition team is vetting a handful of Republicans for potential cabinet positions, despite doubts it will win him new support from the right and risk it will enrage the left. Reaching across the aisle to pick senior members of his administration could shore up Biden's credentials as a unity candidate, a message he's made a cornerstone of his campaign. Past presidents, including George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama, have all done the same, but that tradition died with President Donald Trump, and liberal Democrats are already warning that a Republican pick, even a moderate one, could sow distrust within the party before Biden even takes office. My primary concern is that he involves people in the cabinet who push back against corporate power and support a massive economic stimulus and the broad provision of health care, said David Siegel, the executive director of Demand Progress, a liberal advocacy group. Unfortunately, there are no prominent Republicans I know of who are on board with that agenda. Nevertheless, one person close to the Biden transition said it remains a priority to have options from different parts of the ideological spectrum for the former vice president to consider. That person and another official familiar with the transition deliberations confirmed to Politico that Biden staffers are analyzing some Republicans' backgrounds and resumes as they compile short lists of candidates for high-profile cabinet positions. The goal is to have some GOP options among the finalists that Biden would choose after the election. Among the names being floated for possible Biden cabinet posts are Meg Whitman, the CEO of Quibi and former CEO of eBay, and former Ohio Governor John Kasich, both of whom spoke at August's Democratic National Convention. Massachusetts GOP Governor Charlie Baker and former Senator Jeff Flake, Republican of Arizona, have also been mentioned, as has former Rep. Charlie Dent, Republican of Pennsylvania, who resigned from Congress in 2018 and became what? A lobbyist. When asked for comment, a spokesperson for the Biden transition said only that the team is not making any personnel decisions before the November 3rd election, but stressed that diversity of ideology and background is a core value of the transition. I mean, really? Diversity of ideology and background? Does anybody think Joe Biden's going to nominate a single progressive to be in his cabinet? A single progressive? He is more likely to have Republicans in his cabinet than progressives. And as I say all the time, the Democratic base is progressive. 85 to 90% of the Democratic base want Medicare for all. 80% of the Democratic base wants a Green New Deal. High numbers for legalizing marijuana, for $15 an hour minimum wage. High numbers in the Democratic Party for progressive policy goals. And they reach out to Republicans who have no plan on health care. They reach out to Republicans who want to cut deficits when it's convenient for them to want to cut deficits, or when they're spending like drunken sailors. I mean, they do this and they wonder why we don't want to vote for Joe Biden. I think this is potentially, should Joe Biden go through with this and actually put Republicans in his cabinet, I think it's a complete betrayal to the base of the Democratic Party. You know, if Democrats win this thing, it will be because people are sick of the pandemic and they want leadership out of the pandemic and they're in desperate need of economic relief. The best response to that is to spend money, if you put Republicans into the cabinet, they're not going to be about spending the money that needs to get spent. They're just not going to do it. It's not in their blood. So if the Democrats win, if Joe Biden wins this thing, it's because of a uniquely terrible situation in the COVID and the COVID depression. It's not because he said he was going to put Republicans in his cabinet. It's not because of bipartisanship. I mean, what do you call an Obama-Trump voter anyway? Is that a Republican? An Obama-Trump voter? Is that a Democrat? Is that an independent? I'd like to know. Because that's what you're trying to win, is the Obama-Trump voter. You want the Obama-Trump-Biden voter. After everything awful that the Republicans have done, particularly in the last two Republican administrations, and after Merrick Garland and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat, and repealing Obamacare 100 times, and all of the bullshit, after all of the shit after the Republicans swore in 2009 that Barack Obama would be a one-term president, they made a pact that Barack Obama would be a one-term president. And Joe Biden wants to put Republicans in his administration. Do you think John Kasich wasn't down with Barack Obama being a one-term president, with doing anything possible to stifle him? I'm pretty sure John Kasich was down with that. Meg Whitman, give me a break. 142,000 jobs have been outsourced under Trump. 142,000 jobs. And they want to tell us about how they can work with Republicans. Half of all workers make $30,000 a year or less. Of those workers, 39% of workers in earning less than $30,000 a year, 39% of them considered quitting their job this year because of safety precautions with COVID. Only 23% of higher earning individuals have considered quitting their job. People are not being taken care of in the workplace. People are concerned. They want to be safe from the coronavirus. 8 million people have been dropped into poverty, and he wants to put Republicans in the cabinet. You know, I just wonder, why doesn't any president ever seem to realize that a great piece of their legacy would be he was the president who solved homelessness? He ended homelessness in our country. He ended homelessness. Wouldn't that be a great legacy? He gave everyone health care. Come on, isn't that a great legacy? What's wrong with these people? And if you need any other reminders as to why, here's what I tweeted today. Is Joe Biden trying to lose this race? Putting Republicans in cabinet positions after the complete failure of Republican policies and the hatred spewed by Republicans for years is a betrayal of the vast majority of Biden voters. Jeff Flake. Beth Lynch tweeted, Biden's elected racial animosity, anti-immigrant sentiment, and xenophobia remain the driving force of the Republican Party. Trumpism remains, and you've elected a man who not only wants to work with them, but wants to give them a seat at the table. Now what? I couldn't agree more. But then to remind us of what Republicans are all about, we have Mitch McConnell. This is in the Washington Post today. McConnell warns White House against making stimulus deal as Pelosi and Mnuchin inch closer. GOP leader suggests Democrats are not negotiating in good faith and could disrupt Supreme Court nomination. Prospects for an economic relief package in the next 2 weeks dimmed markedly on Tuesday after Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, revealed that he has warned the White House not to strike an agreement with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi before the November 3rd election. In remarks at a closed-door Senate GOP lunch, McConnell told his colleagues that Pelosi is not negotiating in good faith with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, and that any deal they reach could disrupt the Senate's plans to confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court next week. Republicans have voiced concerns that a stimulus deal could splinter the party and exacerbate divisions at a time when they are trying to rally people behind the Supreme Court nominee. The comments were confirmed by 3 people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss them. McConnell's attempted intervention came as Pelosi and Mnuchin continued negotiating over the roughly $2 trillion economic relief package. Pelosi spokesman Drew Hamill said the conversation provided more clarity and common ground as they moved closer to an agreement, but no deal can become law without McConnell's blessing, and his direct warning to the White House imperils the chances of any bill becoming law in the next 2 weeks. Well, the one thing that would be politically smart for people to do is deliver economic stimulus to the American people, and get this, have a plan to fight coronavirus. That's the best thing they could do for the American people, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. And they're clearly all idiots. Not looking out for their own political best interests. McConnell also spoke later in the day about what he would be willing to bring up to a vote in the Senate. And it sounds like his $500 billion plan, which doesn't even have direct payments checks. Excuse me. But what was fascinating today, and I still don't know what to make of it, but Bernie Sanders tweeted this. This week, there will be a bill in the Senate that would provide the support of millions of families desperately need. I say to my Republican colleagues, stop listening to Donald Trump, stop listening to your wealthy campaign contributors, pass that bill. So I don't actually know entirely what's going on because I didn't see anyone else in the news or on Twitter talking about this vote that Bernie is talking about. He tweeted times today. I can't imagine that he's making it up or that he's got his facts wrong because he's not prone to that. So I don't know. I'll be paying attention to this tomorrow and in the coming days to see what's going on and what is what. All right. Thank you for watching The Daily Faded. I'm Hetz. I'll be back again tomorrow night at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. And thank you to my loyal friends in the Daily Faded community for watching, continuing to watch, even after I was gone for such a long time. Thank you guys. It means the world to me. All right. I will see you tomorrow.